They're over there sweating because I'm trying to get some levies, last levies checked. They're going, oh,
Ready?
yada, yada.
We're going to start with the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Board of County Commissioners for Shawnee County. It's October 26, 2023. On my far left, Madam Clerk,
My chair's short.
Cindy Beck. On my far right, our County Councilor, Jim Crow. And on my immediate left is Commissioner Aaron Mays. On the immediate right is Commissioner Kevin Cook. And I'm Bill Rippon. Go ahead.
So, hey, before we begin, I have an item I'd like to pull under consent agenda, item B, and move that to under new business, item B2. And I would make a motion that we do that.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, what do we have first?
First is item number 1, proclamation of presentations, A, United Way workforce presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Monholland with the Commission Office. We have, as you're aware, we have kicked off our Workforce United Way campaign here with Shawnee County. And I have invited Angel Romero with United Way, and he is going to give us a brief overview presentation, what United Way does for our community. You want to come up?
Well, good morning, everyone. This is always an exciting time of year for us. I was just telling Amanda, we get to be here, there, and everywhere around Shawnee County as we talk with folks about the chance to invest in United Way's work and really get to share and educate folks about what United Way does in the community. And this year has been particularly exciting because there's been a lot of really new and exciting developments in our world. So we're extra glad to be able to have that opportunity to share a little bit today. I do want to start off, too, and acknowledge Amanda Monholland as the county's campaign chair because that is a lot of work in addition to your actual day job as well. So we appreciate her taking that on. And I also bring greetings from our CEO, Jessica Lynn here. She is in our board meeting right now, so you are stuck with me this morning. But we are excited to share some information with you all. As we get started, of course, this United Way of Kaw Valley name, I know folks are getting used to. We like to say we are the artist formerly known as United Way of Greater Topeka. We went through a merger that I'll mention here in just a moment in this last year with our folks in Douglas County at United Way of Douglas County to form what you see on the screen now, a 4-county organization that serves Shawnee, Jackson, Douglas, and Jefferson counties, which has really lent itself to a lot of benefits for our organization. So what you see on the screen there is just kind of a brief map of who we are and what we do in the areas that we serve. So of course, continuing that work that we do in Shawnee County and adding Douglas County to that effort. For those who might not be as familiar, what our mission is, what drives us every day when we wake up at United Way is that we are creating and cultivating that unbreakable network of support for a strong, healthy, and equitable community. So that strong, healthy, equitable community is the crux of what we do at United Way. And of course, I think is a mission that we share with all of you as we work on making our community a better place. And the way we do that, what a lot of people know us for, is that we get to invest in agencies throughout our community that are doing really good work, that are aligned with us in strategic areas that the community have told us are important for building that strong, healthy, equitable community. So what that looks like is we invest in childhood success. So we want to make sure that kids are ready to start kindergarten, that they are on track when they start kindergarten, because every bit of research tells us when kids start school and they're not ready, their chances to graduate start to decline precipitously. So we want to make sure kids are ready to start school. Once kids are in school, we want to make sure that we're providing support not only for that student, but also the rest of the family as well. Because we know we can pour as much time and effort into student success, but if their family doesn't have what they need to support themselves, that effort's only going to go so far. So that work in family and family success looks at things like financial counseling, for instance. How do we help folks that are burdened with debt or find themselves in tough financial positions, have the tools they need to be able to get out of that situation? How do we help kids in high school learn what the real world is like so that they're able to make those smart financial decisions later on? How do we partner with organizations to take people from homelessness to actually working and earning a wage? So that's a big part of our partnership with the Topeka Rescue Mission. So lots of things that happen there. And then, of course, our work in family supports, which a lot of people know as basic needs. So those are the most basic things people think of. It's things like food assistance, like rent and utility assistance, healthcare prescription access, and safety from domestic violence. So those things, we know that you have to meet those things in order to tackle any of that other work. You know, if kids are hungry, it's really hard to think about being successful in school. If you can't meet your rent and utility bills, it's really hard to think about having a family budget and getting out of debt. So we know we have to address those things in order to be successful. And as you all know, I think you all received an invite to our upcoming data walk next Monday, which we are really excited to give people the opportunity to really dig into what this data looks like in Shawnee County so that people can have a real understanding of what these needs look like and how agencies are addressing them. I'll point out, of course, too, last year in October, we did have the opportunity to merge with United Way of Douglas County. And this was really a great story all around. We, of course, have talked and worked with Douglas County over the years, being our next door neighbor. And so they've reached out to talk and share ideas over time. And last year, they were at a position where they were looking at how do they build staff capacity in Douglas County? How do they do their work differently? They had a departure of leadership there, and it gave them a good opportunity to think about how do we do what we do differently in Douglas County. At the same time, we were having those conversations here in Shawnee County about how do we work as efficiently as we can, and how do we leverage the similarities we have between our counties. As many folks know, of course, we share a workforce between our two counties. There's a lot of folks that live in Douglas County but work in Shawnee County. We also share agency relationships. So the move, for instance, of harvesters to Douglas County actually coincided perfectly with the timing of this merger, because even though they'll be physically located in Douglas County, we have our office in Douglas County, and we're able to work with them across those county borders. And there's a number of other agencies that we share in common between those counties. So that merger officially happened last October, so it's just been a little over a year, but that's allowed us to really recognize some efficiencies in our work on both sides of the county, and we have the chance to learn from each other. There were some things that Douglas County were doing that we were wanting to do in Shawnee County, and so we've learned from them, and vice versa as well. So that's been a really exciting opportunity, and I think gives us a chance to look at this whole region and how do we really improve the health of our entire kind of four-county area we have here. The one thing that we did want to remind folks that is really important is that your local dollars do stay local. So if folks who are living in Shawnee County, people who are part of Shawnee County's campaign, those dollars stay here unless the donor tells us otherwise, which they always have the option to do. Just a couple, key reminders about what we do. We already talked about our grant work that we do, again, in childhood success, family supports. So we're investing right now, somewhere around $700,000 into our community. That's directly in Shawnee County, across those areas of work. One of the other things that I think sometimes people forget about with United Way, sometimes people know us through Nancy Perry Day of Caring or other volunteer opportunities we do. The dollars that folks invest in United Way, of course, allows us to invest those grants in the community. But the other thing it does is it supports this kind of strategic volunteer engagement opportunities. So it includes Nancy Perry Day of Caring, but it also includes things like board leadership training. And so that's an opportunity we put on right now. now twice a year, and it allows people who are either on nonprofit boards but are thinking about how do they step up their game in their nonprofit service, or those folks who want to serve on a nonprofit board and they've had that inkling to want to do that. This gives them the training on kind of all aspects of what it looks like to serve on a nonprofit board. And then once we get them excited about that opportunity, they can attend Topeka Volunteers, our event in April, which is basically a volunteer fair on steroids, is the way I like to describe it. And so then they have the opportunity to connect with dozens of agencies throughout the city of Topeka and Shawnee County that they might want to volunteer with. And then, of course, we have TopekaVolunteers.org, which is our centralized volunteer database. And so folks can go on there, and we also in Douglas County have VolunteerDouglasCounty.org. And so there are dozens of agencies on there that have volunteer opportunities listed. So if someone says, hey, I want to volunteer, or they have maybe a kid that wants to volunteer, they can go on there and search for all kinds of volunteer opportunities all in one spot. So that's been a really great thing to roll out over these last couple of years. And we've seen some tremendous results. We know that the economic value of a volunteer hour is about $30 an hour. And so when you multiply that out, we were just looking at our numbers last year, just internally, when you look at our board and our committees and all of that, that brought in about $200,000 worth of economic impact just right here in Shawnee County. When you look at the volunteers for all of our partner agencies that utilize Topeka Volunteers, and you add that all together, this one about knocked me out of my chair, that's about $9 million worth of economic impact right back here in Shawnee County because of all those folks that are doing some really, really good work. On collaborations, I won't spend a lot of time on here, but just to note, when you look at that middle section right there, the other thing that dollars do is they go towards our role as a community collaborator. So all those different collaborations, whether it's Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, leading the Kansas Community Network, WellSky used to be known as Healthify, the Pine Ridge Partnership, those are all things we get to play a role by virtue of our position in the community and having access to a number of agencies. We get to lead those collaborations. That's really our central point, is to be a community convener, to bring folks together to be able to talk about these really big challenges in our community. And it takes a lot of work. Some of you are familiar with Brett Martin, our Vice President of Community Impact, and so he really leads a lot of that collaboration work for us and helps us through that. Another thing that's really important that we provide to you for our community that sometimes people don't always know about is the 211 hotline. We actually had an opportunity, we were talking to city employees last week and talking to folks who are out in the field and interacting with citizens on a regular basis, and really talked about this hotline a lot because sometimes they see folks who are in the positions of immediate need. So this is a hotline that is operated 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, that people can call for assistance. And so folks can call and say, hey, we need food assistance, or, gosh, I don't know where to find diapers for my kiddo, or I need help with X, Y, and Z. And those folks on the call are trained professionals who are trained in how to connect people to resources here in our community. And it's kept really up to date. We just kicked off our Christmas Bureau Adopt a Family program, and so 211 has all that information, so when folks are at the holiday time and wondering how they can receive assistance and that sort of thing, if they call 211, it's going to have all of that information right there. One person I also want to bring up just to share a little bit as well. We are really lucky. We have some awesome volunteers that work with us. And so Allie Weems is one of our campaign ambassadors with United Way. She works just across the street for the city of Topeka. So I want her just to share a little bit about her experience with United Way.
Good morning, Commission. My name is Allie Weems. I'm a management analyst with the city's Public Works Department, and this is my first year as a campaign ambassador for the United Way. I'm actually, as Angel had mentioned, one of those who had hailed from Douglas County originally before moving to Shawnee County, and this has provided an excellent opportunity for me to understand more about how our community interacts with the resources that United Way provides, because a lot of the work that we do can't be done in a vacuum. So it's really critical that we have community partners and outreach that help make that connection to our citizens. So I'm very thankful and excited to be a part of this campaign, and I'm happy to help support the workforce campaign here at the Commission. Thank you.
We were always excited to bring someone new into Topeka. So it's been an exciting opportunity. The last thing I'll just note in terms of some practical, some logistical things to note for the county's campaign. Of course, myself as staff and Allie as one of our volunteers, we're available for any assistance that any departments or anyone might need when it comes to campaigns. So rather that speaking at events, providing information, that sort of thing. We really want to make sure when people give that they know where their dollars are going. And so we are available for that assistance. You can also see there's some resources on there as well that people have access to for flyers and educational type materials about United Way. And so that's available to any department staff, anyone like that who would need that information. And then also special events, of course. I have eaten many a cinnamon roll and burrito at the jail before in the past, and so we are available to help with any of those kinds of special events as they happen as well. And of course, there's some social media information as well. I know that's a lot of information and a lot of new things that are going on this year, so I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has it.
Any questions?
Clarify, Angel, your cinnamon rolls at the jail were not as an inmate, but
You're
as a
correct.
participant.
Yeah.
They did let me leave.
All right.
Well, thank you for what you do and what you do for this community and now for the four county area. So we certainly appreciate all your work.
Absolutely.
Ashley, thanks for coming in and
Thank you, Ashley.
talking to us.
Yeah, appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, what is next?
Next item is item 3, consent agenda.
I'm going to move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Could
Mo-
excuse me, could
oh,
you say that with the exception
With the
of item
exception
B?
of item B,
Thank
which
you.
has been
Yeah.
moved to the
Second.
Yeah, thank you.
District Attorney number 2. Okay. All right. Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item 4, new business, A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Commissioners, this morning we do have vouchers that total $1,900,021, $256.84. The highlights out of that voucher report, we have allocations of $412,519.16 to agencies in the Shawnee County area, holding accounts with the state of Kansas of $182,403.88, health insurance premiums for employees of $259,145.74. Under the federal grant, we have Axon Enterprise Incorporated of $133,126.65 for the first year of for year 1 fleet cameras. We have the Special Public Works Can Equip Incorporated of $46,542.64 for 2 rotary cutters. Under Equipment Fund, Alltech Communication of $12,954 for courthouse renovation to the camera additions. And finally, under the Sewer District, Bartlett and West Incorporated of $19,524.14 is professional service for Sherwood Sewer District and the sewer rehab. I don't have any questions regarding the vouchers and would move for their approval.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
There are no correctional orders today, and just finished setting the levies, the final levies, so when we're in this process, we don't process any correction orders at all until after the tax roll has been certified, and then there'll be a bunch of them again, so there won't be any correction orders for a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
Sure. Item B, District Attorney, number 1, consider $125,000 in contingency funds to replenish the exhausted capital and cold case fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Kage, Shawnee County District Attorney. Thank you for your time. Due to recent events here in Shawnee County, we have filed a new capital case that remains pending. The Death Penalty Defense Unit has been appointed. They're funded by the state of Kansas. Litigation in these matters is timely and expensive. We need additional resources to support this litigation. We also have a cold case / capital case which goes to trial in January, and we've recently come across some new DNA technology. We anticipate submitting items for testing, and that will have additional expenses. And in general, these cases require additional resources and expert witness testimony, which is by its very nature expensive. If the commission will recall, this fund was originally instituted by the request of my predecessor, I believe in 2014. And it was created specifically for capital cases. The fund lay dormant for a number of years, and I came before this body and asked that we repurpose the fund for cold cases and capital cases. And the primary use to this point has been supporting litigation of the existing capital case and investigation and filing of cold cases. The fund has since been depleted. Over the years, it's been replenished either by contingency funds or by an excess of funds from my budget at the end of the year. My current calculations for this year put us about $50,000 ahead, but I anticipate by the end of the year, those funds will be depleted. So I do not think that will be an option for us this year. And speaking with Audit Finance, I had asked for originally $150,000 because that was the original amount the fund was created at. And every time we come here and talk about replenishing, that's the amount we try to get to. It's my understanding there's approximately $125,000 that's not spoken for right now in contingency, so that's why the request is specific to 125. But we then talked about the possibility that at the end of the year, if those other funds, if any remaining balance is in contingency that could get us to that 150, that we might be able to look at that as well. So that is why the request is worded the way that it is. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If we could, I'm sorry, Mr. Kage, but if we could have our Audit Finance Department kind of talk to us about our contingency funds and expenditures that we think may be upcoming for the remainder of the year.
Good morning, Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. Currently, we have approximately $380,000 left in our contingency for this year. Now, as the year goes on, we do hear of items that we may have to have money for. We have been watching, there's the DOC, I can't think of the right word. I'm sorry, there are some DOC employment expenses that we may have to look at supplementing their budget for the rest of this year. That decreases each month that we don't need it. So that right now is one of those items. We also had an item with the elevator at our elections office that it's kind of, I don't think we are going to need that, but initially we thought we were for sure going to need that. That is another item. So if you subtract those two items from the $380,000, we were about at $125,000. That's where the amount that the DA is asking for came from.
Betty, currently, the district attorney, his budget, are you guys does the Audit Finance Department work with Mr. Kage, make sure, does he stay on, I mean, where he's at with his budget and how?
Well, we watch it monthly. As later today, I'll be giving that monthly financial report. We look at it monthly to see where they are, to where we expect them to be. Generally, unless it's something that's, looks like it's out of line, we don't necessarily work with them, especially we do an evaluation close to the year end. We will be beginning that evaluation now, where we try to look at what additional expenses they will have in these next 2 months. Some departments, like my department, our expenditures are very even throughout the year. Other departments, like Parks and Rec, they have a lot of additional expenses in the summer months. So you have to really, you can't evaluate each department the same way. So come like the 1st of November, we start really looking at where they are and what they have left for the next 2 months. So we are starting that process now. What I do the rest of the year is just kind of look and see where they are compared to prior years. I look at the spending patterns for that department for the prior years and kind of apply that into what I expect the expenditures to be each month. I have not noticed a big concern with the DA's office. If I had seen that, we would have contacted them and had a conversation.
Now, as part of our courthouse renovations, we have bi-weekly meetings with yourself included, a member of the district attorney's office, me as a representative of the county commission, our county counselor, and other individuals. There's been some discussion about work that's going to be done within the district attorney's offices, renovations to the district attorney's space, where the district attorney was going to be paying for that out of his budget, whether it was floor covering, carpet, painting, some very minor renovations and changing some walls and doorways and things of that nature. And they had indicated that we're going to be paying that out of their budget.
Yes.
Do we know exactly how much they're planning on paying for those renovations at this time?
Well, in conversation with the DA, those expenditures will be paid out of his '24 budget. The renovations won't be done till about the end of the year, and Cindy has agreed that those expenditures can be paid out of his budget in '24.
So they will not be coming out of the 2023 budget?
That's correct.
Okay. In years past, when the district attorney has had in things that maybe looking at upcoming into the next year, we would establish a project fund
Right.
to carry over those funds. Is this an item that could be part of a project fund to carry over from 2023 rather than having it go back into our general fund?
You mean
If the district
for
attorney has,
this capital cold case
Yes.
fund, or for the renovation? And the question is yes to both.
yes to both, but specifically as to the request of the $125,000 today.
Yes, yes. If, whatever was remaining at the end of his year that he had in his budget, he would have to come to the commission and ask to transfer that. But that, would be something that could be done.
Right. I mean, I doubt that any of the commissioners would disagree that the cost of a capital case is more intense than a other criminal case. There's a lot more that is required, very highly skilled. There's higher requirements by statute, by law. You need other individuals, and these are very important cases to our community, and I don't think that any of us are going to probably deny that those should be funded. As we sit here at the end of October, going into November, just needing to, I don't know that I have a full idea of what contingency we might have, also knowing where the district attorney is at. I'm just not sure if this is an item that we should act on today, if we should table for 30 days to see where your office would be at, to see where we are going to have that money come from.
Well, right now, as I said, I'm not seeing that his budget is extremely under budget or extremely over budget. It looks like it's pretty much right on budget for the year at this point in time compared to prior years. So I don't know, there may be some at the end of the year. At this point in time, I'm not seeing that it would be a significant amount that it would be remaining at the end of the year.
Okay. If we do take this action today, what's the implication from that for Shawnee County as it relates to our contingency fund? Because it would wipe it out.
Well, it would, given if we need to use the money for these two other items that I have earmarked money for. They have not been approved by you because it hasn't come to that point. I try to anticipate these items that I know about, and which is what I'm doing here. So right now, I don't know what the likelihood of needing these other two items are, so that would be part of that conversation.
If I may, thank you, Betty. Commissioner Cook, I understand your concern. It's not lost on me that any other department could have a need for those contingency funds. If it's helpful, since I've already made kind of a hybrid request, I'm willing to modify the request to say, if you can give me $50,000 now, And then at the end of the year, if there's balance, if there's an additional 100 available in contingency, this request would carry on to that. That would meet my immediate need, and I think it would address your underlying concern.
Yeah, we don't know what emergencies might come up with 2 months remaining in the year. And if we do get into a spot to where our contingency is completely evaporated, then we're going to need to draw from reserves to meet those needs. And so
I understand.
if we can do that, I mean, that would address your immediate needs in the capital case and leave us with that ability to come back and adjust it when we get to the end of the year.
So it's not that, you're not really concerned about the amount of the money, it's really the source that concerns you.
Right.
I mean, and I guess in my mind, I mean, I have no doubt that he is gonna need to use this money with the amount of, prosecution that you guys are gonna be doing in the next year.
Oh, we will. I'll probably come back next year and ask for more.
But I
Just
also,
telling you now.
I mean, I think, in my mind, it's all, at the end of the day, it's all coming from the same source. I mean, it's just the different account. So, I mean, even if contingency is empty and we do have an emergency, that's what the reserves are for. And so I'm not as concerned about the source of it, just knowing that, I mean, there's still a way to fund other things if we need to. And perhaps we pay this out of reserves. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's an option too, but.
The other question that maybe is, in capital cases, again, it's a different type of litigation that occurs in a capital case as opposed to any other criminal in prosecution. Is this a case where the Shawnee County District Attorney's Office is going to be working with the Attorney General and they would be taking on some of that cost and burden, or is this going to be completely prosecuted by your office?
The Attorney General does not lend assistance to my office in criminal prosecution. The Attorney General's office generally would support a smaller jurisdiction that did not have a professional prosecution staff that was competent to handle something like this. And it's my understanding that currently their ability to do that in rural areas is severely diminished. So no, to answer your question, this is on me, this is on my staff. We will get it done. We just require some additional support from you at this time.
I just know that under prior administration, sometimes the Attorney General's office will reach out to other communities to handle on cases like this. And so that was just a clarification.
Yeah, and I think that's been common practice for a long time, for sure, but it was in rural jurisdictions.
All right.
Well, I feel like we're just kind of kicking the can down the road. If we go 50,000, I think we're probably going to use it.
I would feel better, and again, maybe this is just to placate my sense of cautiousness, but if we can do this now and return to this item, knowing that the district attorney, we will make sure that the district attorney has the resource to prosecute crimes within our community, and that's a priority for us as commissioners, is to make sure the district attorney has the resources that he needs. But at this point, not knowing exactly what other expenditures we may have and knowing where we would draw that from. And so it addresses the need today, and then we can work with our audit finance department, and I know the district attorney works with our audit finance department. They work very closely hand in hand and making sure that we are able to cover our expenses. So.
If you're amenable to that, it's fine. I mean, I want everybody to feel comfortable with the expenditure at the same time, but, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, it sounds like we're all telling you yes, but we're delaying the action a little bit on part of it, so.
And I'm perfectly okay with that as an outcome here, Commissioner Mays. I appreciate the commission's willingness to work with me on these issues when they come up and to support these unforeseen needs. No one could have foreseen that this capital case was going to happen this year. Nobody knew that was going to happen. And so when it does, we have to respond appropriately, and that's why I'm here today.
Now, in 2024, maybe even 2025, depending on how litigation goes, because court cases like this are sometimes more complicated, I would fully anticipate that Lee Don Welch who's currently in the chambers, will probably be coming before the county commission to ask for additional money from the courts regarding capital cases, because there's also expenditures with the courts department when it comes to cases of that nature, just as we've had in other high-profile litigation in Shawnee County.
So did you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve $50,000 from contingency for the replenishment of the capital case / cold case fund, depending on how it's called within the ledger.
I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item B2, consider approval of a grant award of $658,468.37 for fiscal year 2023 regarding an enhanced collaborative model task force to combat human trafficking in partnership with the YWCA of Northeast Kansas.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Mike Kage, Shawnee County District Attorney. This one should be a little bit easier. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking you to give me permission to accept money from the federal government in the amount that the clerk just read off. This was a competitive grant that we applied for. It's the first of its kind in this state, and the DOJ only awards a handful of these every year around the country. If you recall, I came before this body, asked for funding for a special investigator who would focus on human trafficking a couple years ago. You approved that request, and that started a journey for us down the path that we're on today. And this represents a huge win for this office, for Shawnee County, for the community. We are about to take the lead in this state in the fight against human trafficking. That's what's happening right now. So I wanted to be here before you today to thank you again for your support, ask for your permission to receive these dollars because they won't release them until you approve the grant. This is going to represent an opportunity to amplify the work that's already going on. We have a human trafficking task force. We work with Osage in Jackson County. We have state and federal partners already embedded. This grant will allow us to hire a human trafficking intelligence analyst and also a task force coordinator. The sheriff's office is contributing an investigator, and then Brad Barrett will be the fourth member of this task force. I guess you can count Goose as number 5 unofficially.
So this is not just a Shawnee County District Attorney's Office personnel. This is also with law enforcement agencies and multiple jurisdictions.
Well, to be clear, the grant specifically will fund 4 positions. Our match to the grant is Brad Barrett and his salary. And so we're getting 3 additional positions to focus on human trafficking. Our bread and butter is going to be Shawnee County. However, we already have an existing framework with local partners, and it makes sense. Human traffickers do not care about county lines. They don't really care about state lines either. So it makes sense to pool resources and have that collaborative approach. And the thing that's specific about this grant is you partner with a victim services agency. So the YWCA of Northeast Kansas is our victim services partner in this grant. And the objective here is to make sure that all of our investigations are victim-centered and trauma-informed.
At the conclusion of this grant, what happens to those 4 positions and how are they?
Well, there's a successive level that you can apply for. And so we went out to Denver a couple years ago. We did a site visit with them, and that's where we got this playbook. They followed this model, and they went on to the second level. And ideally, everything goes according to plan, and we just keep it going.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd move for approval of this grant then.
Yeah, I'll happily second it. I think this is fantastic.
It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Appreciate the work you're doing on that.
Next item.
Item C, Facilities Management. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C320-2023 with Meriden Roofing Solutions for a roof replacement at the Shawnee County Extension Office. cost of $69,000 to be funded through the Parking Lots and Roof Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nelda Henning, Director of Facilities Management. This first item and the second item are related. This roof, along with the second item for the roof replacement at the Administrative Services Building, was issued as part of RFP 04723 through the purchasing office. We had received 4 bids. In the bids, we asked for a bid for each building and a combined bid. When the bids were tallied, the best option was to split the bids between 2 vendors, one vendor for each location. So this first one is for Meridian Roofing, and the second one would be for Diamond Roofing. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Then I would move to approve both items 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. All right. Thank you. Next item.
Item D, Department of Corrections, number 1, request approval of application for behavioral health services funding from the Kansas Department of Corrections to conduct assessments and treatment for behavioral health and substance abuse disorder needs in the population of the Juvenile Detention Center in the amount of $155,926.46 to cover the period of January 1, 2024 through January 30, 2024.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections. Beginning of this year, Kansas Legislature, in their infinite wisdom, passed a law that requires juvenile detention centers to start conducting assessments, doing case plans, and providing services within the juvenile detention centers across the state. So this item is their grant system that will begin to fund that mandate. And this period of funding will only go from January to June, so then the next grant application would cover the state fiscal year of 2025. So this item is before you now is to cover some personnel costs as well as contract costs to bring those services in to the Juvenile Detention Center. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
This isn't a competitive grant, though, necessarily, is it?
No, sir, this would be
Okay.
considered a formulary grant that they're just now kicking off to start meeting the needs or the requirements of the statute.
Okay, great. I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Ray, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item D2, request approval to prepare specifications and release a request for proposal for provision of inmate telecommunications services for the adult and juvenile populations.
Tim Phelps, with Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is an item that has come after a number of years that we've been working with the largest telecommunications, inmate telecommunications company in the nation for, I think, 10 or so years that we've been working on expanding our services. And now we're going to issue an RFP to make sure we're getting the best that's available in the market and see if what other companies want to come in and bid for these services. I'll be happy to answer any other questions you have.
We're going to be sending it out to other agencies, or is it just people that are signed up through our vendor list?
Well, I will provide to the purchasing group all of the contacts that I know of in the market. And then I suppose there's some that they already have from previous processes.
All right. I'll move for approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you,
Next
Commissioner.
item. Thank you, Tim.
Item D3, consider authorization and execution of an agreement, contract C328-2023, between the Shawnee County Department of Corrections and the City of Topeka to provide 1 inmate work crew and 1 correctional officer to work with the Topeka Code Compliance Unit.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela McCarty, Department of Corrections. Before you today to request approval for an agreement for the Department of Corrections with the City of Topeka for 1 work crew to work with the code compliance department. That consists of a work crew supervisor, which is an officer, and 5 to 7 inmates, depending on the job that they're requiring for us to do. As you recall before, we had a contract with the city of Topeka for a work crew for several years where that work crew would go out in the community for code compliance jobs every day. And then but over the last year, we haven't had that contract for 2023 due to staffing issues. But now we're at a point where we're able to provide another work crew. We have a work crew for the county, and now we want to use a work crew for the city. The agreement right now would be for 15 hours a week, and that the city actually will pay for the hourly wage of the officer and the daily wage of the inmates that we provide for the code compliance jobs. It's already been sent to the county counselors and approved by them, so I will stand for any questions you have.
Any questions?
Nope. I'm happy to see this program back up and running.
Yes, we are too.
So I'll make a motion that we approve this.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Next item.
Item D4, consider authorization and execution of contract C-334-2023 with Tech Electronics, a sole source purchase and installation of a new fire alarm system for the adult and juvenile detention centers at a cost of $457,250. The project has been reviewed by the Sparks Committee and has been approved for ARPF SLFRF funding with a project number of 2021-58.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eve Kendall, Department of Corrections. This project is something that we've been really needing to do. We've been working with the Audit Finance Department and the County Counselor's Office to make sure it's all within the proper procedures. We're working hard with the vendor to make things happen. I'll stand for any questions that you might have.
I have a question on the sole source purchase. Is this because it's part of an existing system that?
Yes, sir. We are replacing our Simplex system. The vendor that we currently have listed here, they've been working with us throughout, I think, since the building was even constructed. They know our facility probably as well as we do. They have been working with the current system, and because this kind of phases in 5 different phases, I believe, this will help make sure that we have continuity of service and that everything works within our systems correctly and everything, all the technology talks to each other, which sometimes can be quite the chore.
But just to clarify, we're not replacing equipment that's been there since 1987.
No, sir.
It's just,
Well,
it's just working with a vendor that's been working with us
Yes.
since 1987.
the vendor has been working with us for quite a few years. I don't know if it's been 97, but
87 was when the facility was originally
Right.
constructed.
we do have some wiring and whatnot that is original to the building, but most of this equipment has been replaced within time. But all of this equipment is past its age expectancy, and we're starting to really see some more work being done on it than needs to be. So, and they recommended that we replace the system, so that's why I'm in front of you.
Just to clarify, this is an entirely new system.
Yes, sir,
We're
it
not
will be
using
an
any
entirely
old
new system.
components at all,
Correct.
because it's pretty expensive.
Yes, sir, it is. But we have a lot, I don't think some people realize how much wiring, and every cell has a detector in it. They're all through the hallways between the smoke detectors and the fire detectors and heat detectors, and in all the HVAC dampers, we have systems that detect smoke and everything. It's pretty extensive because of life safety that we have to have within our facility.
What's the warranty like on this stuff?
Oh.
Is it, I mean, are we gonna expect to get, what was the last one? You said almost 40 years? I mean, are we gonna expect to get 40 years out of this?
So I'm not going to promise 40 years. I'll promise numerous years. I believe it's around 10 to 15 years now is life expectancy. And mainly, a lot of it is due to just technology changes. The new smoke detectors that we're going to have are going to be self-sensing to where we won't have to have people come in on a quarterly basis to check them all. Currently, we have Tech Electronics. They come in and they check every single detector, a lot of detectors, physically. And this way, they have self-sensing that we'll be able to go to a computer, basically, and check our system. So some of the costs that we've had in the past, we will not have because of the new technology. But I can't promise you 40, but I can probably almost promise you 15.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? And I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item D5, consider authorization and execution of contract C335-2023 with Samco Mechanical to purchase and replace HVAC equipment for the detention center annex at a cost of $368,050. The project will replace 2 boilers, a cooling tower, and a DOAS unit. The project have been approved by the Sparks Committee for ARPA SLFRF funding with the project number of 2021-10.
Commissioners, again, Eve Kendall, Department of Corrections. A little bit of history. If you remember, we wanted to replace our entire system over at the annex. We weren't able to do that because of various reasons. So we're trying to work with the only company that bid for the total replacement to try and make a working system out of our current system. Part of that is replacing some big parts, as you see here, 2 boilers, the air handler, and the DOAS unit, which provides the fresh air. This will greatly increase the efficiency of our current system that is hobbling along. Both this and the past project that we just talked about are approved for the Sparks, through the Sparks Committee for ARPA funding. It meets all the requirements we've gone through with the county councilor again, and for legality and form, I stand you for questionings.
But in plain English, we had wanted to replace the entire heating and air conditioning unit. It came back at a bid much more than anybody at the Department of Corrections or anybody else associated would have thought it to be. So rather than replacing all of the system at one time, we're replacing the most critical part now and hoping to address the others at a later time.
Yes, sir. We currently have 1 boiler that is down. The other boiler that we're asking to replace, the second boiler is coming into a close second. And the cooling tower is showing great wear to where it's needing replaced also. The DOAS, we have 2 DOAS units. One of them we're asking to replace because it's been down. We are replacing current system pieces, the critical pieces. We still have 2 critical pieces that I think we'll probably need to replace maybe next year, but this is definitely a big step in the right direction. We still have a lot of heating pumps that will that these units filter the water and whatnot through in the hot air, but this is continuing our current system the best way we can.
As we head into fall and winter will soon be here, are you anticipating there being any issues with providing heat for the inmates at the facility?
Honestly, I'm hoping that we are able to keep it moving along until we get this replaced. This is a timely issue for me and for the agency, I'm sure, but I'm the one that, has the physical plant part. So it'll be touch and go for a little bit, but we are working strongly and well with our current vendors to make sure that we are keeping heat in the building and cooling in the building when it was going. I think that as long as we don't have any major catastrophes, knock on wood, we will be okay until this is replaced. And that's one of the reasons why I'm hoping to get this I pushed this onto the agenda so that we didn't have to wait any longer.
With more than 500 inmates in the facility at any given time, and knowing how critical this is, I'm sure your department also works with emergency management for contingency plans. In the event that we were to lose heat for the building, we would have a contingency plan for the housing of those inmates.
Yes, sir. We have plans in place for any kind of catastrophe, including if we would lose power or if we would lose heating or cooling, both internally, and then if we had to, we could go externally through mutual agreements of understanding with other agencies through emergency management. We've always had a good working relationship with other agencies. Knock on wood, we've never had to use physical plant issues. But yes, we do have contingency plans in place that we will make sure that the inmates are taken care of in the winter.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
When do you anticipate them getting started? And do they have the equipment already?
We do not have the equipment already. They're waiting for my phone call after I go through this process to know whether or not they can go ahead and order the equipment. We anticipate, they said probably 6 to 8 weeks for the equipment to be on site, and then it'll take probably 4 weeks after that.
So, like
Right, exactly,
January
sir.
and February?
Yes, sir. We're looking at probably February, if everything goes well with the equipment delivery, to be able to have this stuff replaced.
And until then, we're limping along on one boiler instead of two.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do whatever you can to make sure we don't have any pipes burst.
Yes, sir.
We've dealt with enough of that this year.
We've dealt with enough issues
Yeah.
this year, sir. I'd love to be able to coast through the rest of the year.
Wow.
I'll move
Okay.
for approval then.
I have one other question.
Yes, sir.
In replacing these boilers, do we have to do any modifications to the building? I mean,
No, sir. This will be, basically, they're replacing the same type of boiler, size-wise and everything, to where they'll be able to, I don't want to say plug and play, but they're very confident even the air handling tower will be cooling will be able to quickly go in once we get all the pieces.
okay. Does this require new plumbing then throughout, or are we
No,
using
sir.
the same old pipe?
No, we actually have a maintenance side of that building where all the equipment is, and everything that's being replaced is in the same area. So we won't have to do any kind of modification or rerunning of things to make everything fit again.
Okay.
I move for approval.
Motion.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Okay, a motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item D6, consider authorization and execution of contract C 336-2023 with Southern Folger Contracting, Inc. to upgrade the electronic locking systems on security doors at the adult and juvenile detention centers at a cost of $1,497,105. This is a 3-year project due to the number of doors affected. If approved, the funding will come from the DOC Building Maintenance and Equipment Fund.
Eve Kendall, Department of Corrections. This is a very lengthy process. We have a lot of security doors. A lot of them these are the doors that have electronic motors, so they move when our control center operators push the buttons. Some of you are probably more aware of what they look like than the others, but they are original to the building. They have serviced us very well. The main issue is that those motors that run the doors are no longer being manufactured or supported. We're finding that now that some of our doors are having issues, they're finding a very hard time to get parts or even have parts for them. So we're starting to have to move parts around on doors that we don't use very often versus the doors that we use all the time. We've talked to the vendor, and with this agreement, we'll be able to purchase the the locking system replacements, and then their technicians will come in and basically replace the current systems with the new systems. Because it is so long of a process, because of all the doors, it's over 100 doors, we're wanting this vendor because everything will still work together as far as the technology and the electronics of talking to our control center systems and everything that it entails, because that also deals with the audio system as far as the speakers and the cameras and everything else, as far as the buttons that get pushed and what shows up on the control center. This also means that their technicians will replace the door systems, which will help ensure that we maintain our warranties and everything involved. Again, this is a 3-year project. It'll be through our building and maintenance fund, and I will stand for any questions.
Is this funding for all 3 years?
Yes, sir. That is the total amount for all 3 years.
And this only covers the locking systems, not the doors themselves?
We'll be using the existing metal doors. They're still in good shape. It's just the actual mechanics that move the doors that are the issue.
Okay. Again, very expensive, $15,000 a door.
I agree, sir. They're big, heavy doors. They're very heavy.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner May. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next.
Item E, Public Works, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-329-2023 with Douglas County Rural Water District Number 3, permitting the relocation and/or adjustment of one or more of the district's water distribution lines to clear road and culvert construction on Southwest Barrington Road near Southeast 69th Street at an estimated cost of $46,800. These costs will be paid using Public Works Special Highway funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. We're at that phase in our Barrington Road project. Again, this project is all about replacing 3 culverts, and there's some associated road work with that. But we're in that phase of the design process where we're negotiating with utilities so that they can move their utilities and clear our construction. After quite a bit of work with Douglas County Rural Water District Number 3, we've come to an agreement on a cost to relocate parts of their system. That cost, again, is $46,800. At least that's an estimated price. And with that, I look forward to your questions.
What's the timeline? How long is this project going to take to do?
Oh, we hope it's done here in the next few months. Yeah, we want to get this, we'd like to get this project going for construction during the summer break of next year.
And how long would anybody be without water? I mean, they're probably going to have to...
You know, I don't know. Normally, the utilities work that, so it's a temporary, you know, loss of service, but not an extended loss of service.
Any
I'll
other
move for
questions?
approval.
I will second. Motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Kurt. Next item.
Item F, Parks and Recreation, number 1, consider a request to issue requests for qualifications for design services for the construction of an event center in Old Prairie Town.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Laurent, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Department. We are asking to go out for an RFQ for design services for an event center at Old Prairie Town. Sometimes been referred to as the Grange Hall. This center would be used for meetings, wedding receptions, other types of special events. I think that's not talked about in the memo, but I think it's important to bring up that the Friends of Ward Meade support this project, and I believe are willing to donate some funding to the project when we get to that point. Funding for the design services and the project would, if approved, would come from the bond that was issued last September for Parks and Recreation projects. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Rippon, haven't you already drawn up the plan?
I have a concept. I have. Yeah, this one's kind of near and dear to my heart. I've been involved in a lot of the projects out there, moving buildings, restoring them. We haven't done a project in 20 years out there, and like I've always told people, we have a lot of weddings and no receptions. And it's because we don't have a room that holds, well, the Preston Hill room holds 70 people, and that's it. But we do a lot of concerts and stuff, and most of them are outdoors, and it's all totally weather-driven. And this will give us an opportunity to have an indoor venue for things like that, and it even expands the seasons you can do those things. Of course, you're not going to schedule something like that in the winter if you're doing outside, or the heat of the summer. So it kind of leaves you with the spring and fall, and I just think it helps complete that little town square, and it's kind of that missing piece that we need out there. So,
While we haven't had new buildings per se, we have had new attractions. We have our Native American attraction, we've had the sound wall,
Right.
the expansion of the sound wall, lots of improvements to the mansion, improvements to the existing buildings and maintenance of them. And so there's been a lot of work and improvements done to Old Prairie Town and Ward Mead and in that area. And so it's been a constant endeavor in keeping up.
it has. And you're right, there's been a number of improvements, and some good improvements. But
Absolutely.
I think this is one that could change the way operations happen out there. You know, this is going to be used a lot, and I think it's just a big, great addition to what we're doing out there, trying to represent what an old town would have looked like around the turn of the century.
Right.
Kind of a missing piece. So.
This would be, if you're familiar with Old Prairie Town, I think would be, the idea is it would be located right next to the general store in that area.
All right.
So, yeah, exciting concept.
All right. Yes.
So, Tim, you said this is being paid out of the bond.
That's what we're asking for, correct?
So, I just wonder how much
Sure.
is coming from the bond, because by my calculations, there's not a whole lot left in that, and so far, everything that we've tried to do has come in over budget, or is projected to, and I know
Right.
we're making changes and modifications to try and get
Right.
things back down, but we've also still not addressed anything at Dornwood, which we said we were gonna do. We talked about doing something in Montera, and there's no plan there. But at this point, I mean, I'm not sure there's gonna be any money left to do either of those things.
I think it's a valid concern. I would, going back to this memo, the request today is to go out for this RFP to create design services and construction documents and get an idea of what this will cost. There'll be some expense there, for sure. But then we'll have a better concrete number on what this will be. But I think your concerns are valid. You're right. I mean, we are working diligently with the Oakland Pool Project and with the Family Park Project to try to keep those numbers to that $4 million mark for each. And it is a struggle, yeah.
There isn't enough money to do all these projects. I mean, we've got more ideas than money. But,
Sure.
Well, sure,
yeah.
I could add about 10 more projects.
Yeah.
I
If
know.
we had an unlimited
I've got a
amount of
whole
money, but-
file folder back in the office.
Which I guess kind of brings me to my next point. And I think that when I look at our park system and the needs of our park system, I see this as more of a want than a need. And, you know, with Family Park, I mean, that part of the city is underserved. With Montera, I feel that part of the city is underserved. Oakland, that pool needed to be replaced. It was in awful shape. This is something where I feel like we've got a really nice park there now. And while this would be sort of the icing on the cake, I just don't know that it's something that should take priority over some of those other things. Which, I mean, I just, at this point, this request right now is to go out for qualifications on
Correct.
design services. So this would not actually cost us anything to go out for request. However, if it comes back, I mean, we're gonna have to then approve the design services. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, we would come back after we receive submittals, and then we would go through our normal process. This isn't a design build project. This would be a design bid build project. So, yes, we'll have additional meetings after this before we commit any funds to the project.
Okay. I'm gonna need some convincing,
Sure.
I think is the best way to put it. And, you know, last I knew, there were some designs. Somebody, the Friends of Ward Mead had showed me what I took to be architectural renderings at some point.
We do have some designs. They're not to the point where they're construction documents. You know, and we could use those designs as a basis to begin this process. And I would imagine that the firms, we've actually had two different architects do renderings over time. They probably will both put in for these design services. But I think while we do have a concept, I don't think it is to the point where we can start using it for construction, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I think one of the things that makes this project a little different than most of our park projects is we have a friends group that have already committed close to $500,000 towards this project. And I don't see that coming from any of these other projects. That's a pretty good commitment. And they've been working hard with doing events and raising money, and so.
But at the same time, I think we have to look at the scope of the project. What is the total project going to look like? And as we've seen on every project, what we estimate a project to cost and what it actually winds up costing are two different amounts. And so we've talked about this event center being, I think when initially the discussions began, it was going to be less than $1 million. Last discussion estimates were maybe $2 million. And I don't know what I don't know. And I think that that's what we need to know is what are our costs going to be for a facility in a project like this? Where are we going to identify the funding for that project? What is the, if we do this, what's the return of investment? How are we going to be able to bill for it? And it's not that the county doesn't have event centers in addition to the county having the Great Overland Station. We have that as an event center, and it's difficult to continue to book that facility. It's been an expense, but that's part of our master plan for the renovations of North Topeka and the Noto area and being able to add to it. So we just need to know more, I guess.
Sure.
Well, we have a number of facilities that you know, if you look at the money you bring in, they don't make money.
Yeah.
Pools.
Pools.
Pools are one that comes to mind first. In fact, parks in general, you don't make any money off parks. So.
No.
But it's part of the quality of life that we provide here, like trails.
Sure.
I don't think I disagree that trails are a kind of a vital facility we have to attract people to Topeka and retain people. And
Yeah.
I see this kind of the same way. And pools are that way as well. You know, it's something we provide, knowing we're not going to make a tremendous amount of money. I mean, we're going to make money on some of these things, but
Sure.
we know that going in.
Commissioner Rippon, having worked with this project for many, many years and looking at Ward Mead, one of the things that is unique about Ward Mead is that many, if not almost all, of the buildings there are not recreations, but rather restorations. The church, the school, the study, the livery station, the mansion, all of these are restorations of what a turn-of-the-century town would look like. If we're talking about building an event center, this would not be a restoration, but rather a recreation. So it's a little bit different, and I know that there's a lot of discussions at Ward Meet about what kind of paint they should use. Should they use authentic paint or should they use new paint? What kind of hardware should they use? Should they use authentic hardware or new hardware? And those discussions do, and I don't want to just get down in the weeds, but have we looked at being able to identify if there are any buildings within our community that could be moved or relocated to Old Prairie Town to complete that turn of the century, but be, again, a restoration and not a recreation?
We have some recreations. The drugstore is a big example. That building was built the ground up.
But the
now,
interior?
A lot of the interior woodwork was from the old Potwin drugstore, that's true. But that building was built. The livery stable is a stone barn. We didn't number each stone and bring it in and recreate. We tore down an old barn, brought the stone in and built a new barn. We just used old stone. But what stone isn't old? It's all old stone. And the little tack shop that we have for a restroom, that was of course built from the ground up. So we've kind of crossed that bridge in the past. We've recreated some things, and some things we move in. One of the problems with bringing in a building for this event center is it would be a large building, and we ran into the same problem with the drugstore. It's just too big to move in. And we did move the church in, and believe me, that was a pain, because we literally cut the roof off that church, built a framework inside the rafters, and lifted that up with a crane and moved it on a separate truck and put it back together. And my experience with a lot of these restoration projects is they almost cost as much as new construction. It's expensive to do. In this case, I think we would be better off just building new, due to all the codes and everything that we would have to, we have all these uniform building codes, you have to bring it up to the life safety codes. And for an event center like that, I think we'd just be ahead to start from scratch on that.
Yeah.
Now, like the drugstore, we brought in all this woodwork from the Potwin drugstore. I could see bringing in old tables, old chairs, old light fixtures, whatever. We could bring in a lot of old things, and we usually do. That's how we furnish a lot of these buildings. So, and then I think we do a pretty good job making things look old. I think most people who walk out there don't know that the drugstore wasn't moved in,
For sure.
or how the barn was constructed. We like bringing in old buildings. That's good. But bringing in a two-story building like that, that size and that width, that would be very difficult.
Yeah. To answer your question, Commissioner Cook, earlier about wanting and needing more information, I agree. And we have some cost estimates, but I'm reluctant to talk about those today because of what Commissioner Ray said earlier. Our estimates never seem to be what the actual costs are. So I'm hesitant to sit up here and say what I think this is going to cost. But I would concur with really everything I've heard up here today, that it is a concern with where we're going to end on this bond money and whether we'll have enough money to do all these projects. We won't have enough money to do all the projects we've talked about, so we will have to make some decisions.
Originally, we were going to use that money just from Family Park.
We were.
But then we expanded the scope of what we could use that money for, and then all of a sudden, all these projects pop up. And
You are right, and we had agreed on a phase one of Family Park that quite honestly is much larger than the phase one that we're doing now. And we are struggling to get even that funded for that $4 million mark. So.
Yeah. And a preliminary drawing that we have from one of the architects was, it was a building that was 76 feet by 55. That's a pretty good footprint, so that would be a large structure to try to move, and I just don't think we could do that. It's-
And I don't know that we found one. I know there's been a little bit of research done on that some time ago, but I don't think that we know of one that's sitting there waiting for us to come pick it up.
Yeah, you look at the church that was like 20-some feet wide and
Yeah.
like 50 feet long. That was movable, barely. And the good train station, the schools, those are relatively easy compared to something of this size, so. But anyway, any other questions, comments? I would make a move then that we consider authorization for this contract.
I'm going to second, but just recognizing all we're asking for at this point is a request for qualifications, and that we haven't finalized any plans yet, and that we need to have some more questions answered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Item G, Human Resources, number 1, consider request to reject a single bid for occupational health services.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis with Human Resources. Before I ask permission to reject the bid, I'd like to ask everyone to honor the standing meeting policy and just stand up for a moment. All right, I won't disrupt anymore, but we would like to ask for a request to reject the single bid that we did receive, as it's not cost-effective to replace the current occupational health vendors that we have. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Next item.
Item H, Court Administration, number 1, consider request of Court Administration to reclassify an existing IT employee from a Court Technology Support Specialist position, range 13, step 7, at $23.42 an hour, to an Assistant Network Administrator / PC Technician position, range 15, step 7, at $27.07 an hour. This reclassification reflects the change and increase in scope, duties, and responsibilities of the incumbent employee. The position is comparable to the County IT Assistant Network Administrator / PC Technician position. The court has worked with Angela Lewis and Mike Augustine in Human Resources and Betty Greiner in Audit Finance, all of whom have approved the reclassification. The increase in wages will be funded by the 2023 and future years court administration budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lee Welch, Court Administrator, 3rd Judicial District. As Cindy indicated, this is simply a request to reclassify one of our existing positions due to the change in scope and the nature of her job duty due to technology changes over the past few years. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second, but I might also note while we're looking at this, when we have long descriptions like this in the memo, since we changed to the civic software and department heads are able to write your own tagline for the agenda item should not be the entire memorandum. It's just a description of what is on the agenda. Because I know that Ms. Beck has to read it, and so we have the agendas here to back up what the agenda item says. And
Duly noted.
I'm just noting what Ms. Beck has already told all of us. And so, it just tagline. Right, Ms.
I
Beck?
missed that memo.
I carry extra things along just in case my throat goes bad on me.
All right, is that a motion?
It was a
second.
But I did second.
Yeah, I made the motion.
Motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, lengthy motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. All right, next item.
Item I, Information Technology, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-332-2023 with GovBuild LLC for implementation and support of 1 year for community development software for the Planning Department, Public Works Department, Health Department, and Weed Department at a total cost $101,486.55 for implementation, and $38,235.65 for the annual subscription.
Morning, Commissioners. Mark Price, Information Technology. First off, I would like to note that the annual subscription cost, $38,235.65, is being funded from the Land Records grant, or not grant, Land Records Fund. The Land Records Committee did take a vote on this and approve it 7-0 to approve that funding. I failed to have that in my memo and just wanted to make a note that that was looked at by the committee and approved by the committee. This memo is for the acceptance of the contract with GovBuilt for our community development software. This software will make a huge impact for many of our departments: planning, public works, health department, weed department. Make life easier, I think, honestly, for even the appraiser's office when they're trying to get more information. This will take us from a heavily paper world of permitting when someone goes to do a building permit and streamline it to where our departments will be able to work together and simplify what it takes for a citizen to apply for a building permit and get that building permit. What now is a trip to 3 different offices can become a sit down on your couch at an evening and fill out all the paperwork necessary and get your building permit started without ever having to come into a county office. I do have Robert Disberger here from GovBuild if you have any questions specific to the software. I know Joni Thadani couldn't be here today and is very excited to get this going. It will make her life much easier with the size of her staff, and I can answer any other questions you might have.
Any questions?
No.
Thank you for being here.
Yep, thank you.
No questions, I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next item.
Item J, Audit Finance, number 1, Financial Report for September 30, 2023.
Good morning, Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. I'm here for the financial overview as of September 30th. We will begin by looking at revenues. Through September 30th, we had total revenue of $124,062,051. That is $3,617,000 over budget. I will go through each category to show you how that is divided up. Our first category is property tax revenue. We received $97,975,449. That is $1,309,000 under budget. But we did make a little bit of progress this last month. We had a distribution, and we did, so this is a little better by $120,000 than it was last month before this last distribution. The next category is other tax revenue. We received $12,813,805. That is $520,000 under budget. Mostly because of special assessments, and as we've talked all year, you know, if the tax money is down, the special assessments are generally down also. The next category is charges for services. We received $4,931,550. That is $382,000 under budget. Most of that is, not all of it, but most of it's from the Register of Deeds fees, and as we know that is hard to estimate how many filings they will have. And the last category is other revenue. We received $8,341,248,000, and this is the one category that is over budget, and that is because investment income, as we've talked all year, those interest rates have gone up significantly since this was all budgeted. So if you look at the pie chart, 79% of our revenues from property taxes. Other taxes, it equals 10%. charges for services of 4%, and other revenue of 7%. We'll now go to the expenditure side. Through September 30th, the amounts that we have paid or encumbered total $96,524,700. That is $93,014 under budget. So again, this month we are extremely close to budget. This graph just shows the different categories of that, and I'll go through each of those. We start out with law enforcement with expenditures of $45,993,420. That is $181,000 under budget, so a positive variance. Next category is recreation. This is $15,364,177. That is actually $104,000 over budget, so a negative variance. In talking with Parks and Rec, that is because of timing adjustments for this year. They had a lot of pool repairs at the before summer started. They had increased in fleet expenses, and then they have positions that were filled during this time period compared to last year. As I talked before, I usually look at the prior year, and so then I calculate what I expect to be expended through that time period based on the prior year's expenses. So this is a timing issue. They probably will not have the excess money that they had at the end of last year because they're spending it through the year this year. The next category is Public Works, $8,840,032, and that is right on budget. Public Health, $5,819,611. That is $241,000 under budget, and we've talked about that throughout the year also, is mostly the health department because they have been able to use grant funds rather for some of their operating expenses. Administrative services is $11,505,613. That's $130,000 under budget, and that's really just spread through that whole category. And then debt service, $9,001,847. That is $6,285 over budget. Last month I told you I thought that was from additional fees. When I really looked into that, that is really the difference between what I had estimated and what the actual became for that 22 debt service. You know, we did not issue that debt in 22 until December. So when we were doing our budget, I had to estimate that. So that additional $6,000 is the difference between my estimate and what the actual debt service turned out to be. So here's our chart on here that just shows the different categories. And here's our pie chart. 48% for law enforcement, recreation is 16%, public works is 9%, public health 6%, administrative services 12%, and debt service is 9%. As I told you last month, we had paid all of the debt service for the year, and I said that this percentage would go down. Last month, the debt service was 11%. This month, it's 9%. So that will continue to go down throughout the rest of the year because we will have no more expenses in that category, and the other categories will continue to have expenses. And since it's the end of the quarter, I usually look at the expenditures for all sources for Public Works and Parks and Rec. So we'll start with Public Works. From all the different sources, general funds, project funds, the sales tax money for the Willard Bridge debt service, sewer districts, special equipment funds, all of those for Public Works totals $11,483,623. And you can see the biggest portion of that, 57%, is from general fund. And then we do the same thing for Parks and Rec. Those funds, when we're pulling in all the funds, are general fund, the Parks and Rec revolving fund, the Parks and Rec building maintenance fund. There's a little bit of excess reserves that we were still using, and then the capital outlay fund, and that totals $89,929. So that's what we have spent so far this year for Parks and Rec through all the funds. I think this is a good way to see that the numbers that I show you on a monthly basis are just what is spent out of general fund. But I think it's important to see what those totals are when you're looking at all the different funds. And I'll stand for questions.
Any questions? All right.
Thank you, Betty.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next item.
Item 5, public comment.
I don't have anyone signed up, but if there's anyone here from the public who wishes to speak, this is your moment. Seeing none. Next item.
Item 6, administrative communications.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dusty Nichols, Emergency Management. Just wanted to kind of put it out there that we know we got some trunk or treat stuff going on over this weekend. We also have snow in the forecast, and when we saw that, of course, we went, what, already? So we called National Weather Service, and it does look like there's going to be snow on Saturday and Sunday. High temperatures midday are going to be around 48. So if you do have a trunk or treat, please keep aware of the weather and possibly have a rain date. The actual Halloween looks fairly decent, dry, high possibly near 50s. So be aware of that. Also, because it is our first snow indication, I know Angela sent a message out yesterday to department heads talking about closures and so forth for the county. Please review all your processes. There's been no changes that I'm aware of. I talked to Angela a little bit ago for county policies. Emergency management is getting our text strings and stuff put back together for those early morning phone calls. So we'll be reaching out and getting that set up to be ahead of the storms. So if you have any questions for me, please give us a call. But in the meantime, please be aware of the weather and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dusty.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Crowell as County Councilor one last time. I'm going to start with a disclaimer. Might leave something out that I wanted to say. It's kind of a legal thing to do. But I want to say this is thank you and goodbye as County Councilor, but not goodbye to all of my friends that are here today. What an honor and privilege it has been to serve as County Councilor and really all the roles I have with the county over the last 22 years. I think this agenda today probably exemplifies as much as anything the scope of what we do as a county, everything from talking about capital and cold cases, the importance to that. Human Resources was here, IT was here, DOC was here. I'm going to leave something off the agenda, but I think it shows you not only the scope and the importance of what the county does for this community, but also the professionalism, the expertise, the level of knowledge that you have through your county employees, through your department heads, through your elected officials, both through the presentations and the questions that come from each commissioner about each of those items. I couldn't be more proud to have served in the positions that I've had over these 22 years. I've always told people that as soon as I started, and I started right after 9/11, so it's easy for me to remember when I started with the county, but I was immediately impressed with the professionalism, the knowledge and experience of all the department heads and elected officials that I've worked with, and how serious all county employees are about the jobs that they do. There really is sort of a narrative out there about government employees that are corrupt or were lazy or were things like that, and I've never encountered that in my 22 years with the county. I've encountered serious people who work on behalf of this community and work to make this community a better place to live. And that's what we're all working toward, and I want to thank you for that. I want to specifically thank all the members of the county councilor's office and their staff. They've done a great job working with me and making me look good over the years. They're great at what they do. They work for all of you, and they're serious about what they do, and they want to do a good job. Just to all the department heads and elected officials, thank you for working with me over the years. I will miss all of you, but again, it won't be goodbye. I'll be across the street. And specifically, thank you to the 3 commissioners. I really do feel like all of you are my friends specifically, and you sort of develop that when you go through things together like COVID. I hate to mention it, but you're sort of in the foxhole together working through these issues, trying to do the best you can for the community. I consider all 3 of you friends. If anyone questions the seriousness of how you take your jobs or the professionalism that you bring, know that I will always be there to support and defend all 3 of you in that. I can't say enough how much I appreciate the support that I've received. And I wouldn't be standing here today if I didn't have the 3 of your 3 support in the process that I just went through to become nominated as a district court judge. And I really appreciate the opportunity to pursue that and the way that you handled that and the way that you've given me latitude to do that. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to you 3 specifically. Goodbye, but I'll be just across the street. You'll see enough of me. Thank you.
Jim, you're leaving some big shoes to fill here. I don't think people realize the scope of work that they do in our attorney's office. Almost everything you see on this agenda has gone through the attorney's office. They've had to okay it, look over the contracts, clean things up, and Jim has been great at that and over the years. And he's done other duties as required too, managing projects like the Expo Center. He was first and foremost in being our eyes and ears, guiding us through that whole process. He worked with Washburn Tech East, getting that project finished up, and did a great job. But I'm going to miss Jim. He's been a friend, and professional guidance you cannot question. He's just done a remarkable job. And I know all of you departments heads have probably worked with Jim on projects and had questions or concerns, and he's kept us out of court, right? And so he's done an excellent job, and he will be missed here. So.
I know Jim before becoming a commissioner, and having worked with him as a commissioner, his level of professionalism that he brings to the office is hard to match. And whenever we've had an issue with someone needing to fill a spot, Jim's been willing to step in. Stepping in, as you mentioned, as a project manager for Washburn Tech, the East Campus, but also as human resource director. Taking on an area where he had worked on those cases, but not as the human resources director, but took that on as a department head. And I think that really groomed him then to become the department chair of the county counselor's office when Mr. Eckert left us. And just again, your leadership is well noted in the community, and you've got your fingerprints on just about every inch of this county in some way. So thank you for all of your service, and we look forward to working with you as a district court judge too.
I don't have a whole lot more to add. Hopefully I don't see you as a judge over there. But I would say that you've kept us out of the courtroom a whole lot, and I think a lot of people don't realize how many people want to sue the local governments, and Jim and your office have done an adequate more than adequate job, in fact, an excellent job of making sure that we follow all the steps we need to take to keep us out of trouble, and protect the interests of our taxpayers. You know, also, I mean, just from a personal standpoint, the working with you as closely as I have, I mean, I think you're probably the person that I talk to the most out of all of our department heads, I would say, because your department touches everything that we do. And so a lot of my onboarding and getting up to speed as a commissioner, I feel like was done through education provided by Jim Crowell. And so I appreciate that. Look forward to working with you in other capacities. But again, hope that we never have to go into your courtroom. So thank you very much. Congratulations on the new job, and on the marriage. You know, Jim's had a busy month, so so congratulations, and thanks for all the time you've served with us.
Jim, if you just wanted the title, Your Honor, we could have worked something out.
We could have all rise.
Brian Cole, Department of Corrections. This is a tough day for me. Jim and I grew up together, small town, Osawatomie. We've known each other for a long time. Small town values, families, everything, college together, doing different things. And then when Jim became a county councilor, and, you know, we were all excited, and, you know, a lot of us from Osawatomie and things like that. And then, you know, Jim, and much like Rich in their office, but the jail keeps their office busy, and I can promise you that. And I can tell you that, I won't swear on it, but I don't know that we ever lost a case with Jim. Not saying we did with anybody else. But Jim has, he's been a tremendous friend, a family friend. I grew up with him and his late wife. Jim and I have shared a lot. When I had to write things, if Tim wasn't around, I sent Jim, said, I need you to make sure you read this. If there was times I had to speak in public to other important people, I ran stuff by Jim, and then there was other questions, you know, just things I didn't know. Jim's one of the smartest people I know, one of the toughest people I know. He's persevered through a lot of stuff, and, you know, now he's remarried and things like that, and moving on to be a judge. But I didn't want to give Jim anything to hang on there in his office other than I know he's a Chiefs fan. And then my director's coin to say thank you for everything you've done for me in my career. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And do the good things, and our department is in a better place because of you. So I just want to say thank you, brother. I love you. I'm going to miss you. I know we'll talk again. Judges, you'll probably call over. I hope you're not one of the judges that threaten to throw me in jail like some have before, and stuff like this. But I just wanted to give you something from the Department of Corrections, and I'm just going to miss you.
Thank you. That's cool.
Now, Brian, it would have been better if you guys would have just grown up 10 miles to the north in that good town of Paola. So close.
All right. Anyone else? Oh, the election office.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jake Fisher, Shawnee County Elections Office. Just wanted to run through a few things that are going on right now at the Elections Office. We started early voting this week. That is Monday through Friday this week and next week. That is 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Also, we've already started mailing out anybody who has requested a mail ballot. If anybody has gotten their mail ballot, you have several ways you can return those. You can just drop them in the mail as long as they are postmarked by Election Day, November 7th, and received in our office by the 10th. You can drop those off in person at the Elections Office, or somebody can drop those off on Election Day, November 7th, at any polling place. Early voting in our office will end on Monday, the 6th of November at noon, so it'll be 8 a.m. to noon. By state law, we have to stop at noon. And then general election is on Tuesday, November the 7th. And on that day, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and everybody who is registered would then have to go to their regular polling place on that day. And then last but not least, you gentlemen will appear on the 20th of November at our office at 9 a.m. to convene as the Board of County Canvassers, if I can say it, to certify the election. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Commissioner Mays?
Nothing from me.
Commissioner Cook?
Nothing additional.
I just wanted to mention that we will have a work session next Monday at 9 o'clock, and we are going to be brought up to speed on, from the Extension Office. They're going to be giving their quarterly reports, so see many of you next Monday. Next item.
Item 7, executive session.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for a period not to exceed 1.5 hours for the following reason: to discuss personnel matters, non-elected personnel, specifically to conduct interviews for an open, non-elected department head position. Like I say, we've chiseled out an hour and a half for that, and why don't we start at, let's just start at 11 o'clock.
No action.
No action is expected at this time.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. We are now back in session. No action is taken at this time, so we're adjourned.